Ladies and gentlemen, the following is another spectacular episode of the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society. In one corner, we have the Monarch of Mardi Gras, the Baroness of Bourbon Street. When she's not co-hosting Ringside Society, she's on crazy misadventures such as shopping for DeLoreans, going back to 1885 for freshly churned butter, looking for the fabled Cobra Kai dojo, and dressing up as one of the Road Warriors and picking fights with random people. Louisiana's own Kathy Knight. In the second corner, we have the greatest thing on God's green earth. No, we're not talking about money, Mary Jane, or Popeye spinach. He's the triple dart of Ringside Society and Delaware's greatest American hero. It takes two to make a thing go right. He's Rob Bass, and you are not. And the third corner, we have that ocean crossing, straight up bossing, flight catching, shot glass snatching, always on the go. Catch him if you can. Said his name in Guyana. Now they love him in Japan. No cap. The worldwide star boy, Remy Blue. And our special guest tonight is a man who is first class. You want to know why he's first class? Because he graduated with the Nightmare Factory Class 1. And he is also the vibe curator. We gotta find out what that means, man. It sounds like something cool. It sounds like something Kathy would need, Rob would be in, and me, I would just want to know out of curiosity. Everybody, welcome to the show, Luca Wrenne Proctor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Luca, how's it going, man? How's everything going for you on this easy Sunday night, if you want to call it easy?
Things are going really well. It's been a long day, but a busy and productive day. So yeah, just getting out some of that nervous tension. A lot of big changes coming, and just putting in the work to make them happen.
Awesome, man. Well, I hope everything works out for you, and you know it just takes you to the next level and whatnot, and all that good stuff, man. You know, I gotta say, first off, man, the Nightmare Factory, y'all been doing it big like nobody's business, man. I've seen y'all. I'm like those showcase. I haven't seen Showcase 3 yet. I'm about to check it out real soon.
All right, you might see a familiar face.
Yeah, hey, we don't mind, but we might because you actually unless some people, and I'm not gonna call names, but because I don't want to put them on the spot, but unless a couple of people from your class get back to me and say, hey, I want to be on the show, you're officially our last guy from class 1 for now. Next up is class 3. We got most of class 2. So yeah, you're actually our last guy for class 1. So next time, those of y'all watching, next time when I say class, and it's gonna be this that's showing up because they're next. But yeah, man, I gotta say I was very impressed by the showcase, especially you know, class 2 was pretty interesting as well. And it's funny because, and you're probably gonna think I'm just saying this because you're in front of me, but it's not. But I enjoyed that more than the WB pay-per-view they had at that time. The one with the zombies that grabbed Miz and injured him or whatnot. Yeah, I enjoyed y'all's showcase more than most of that pay-per-view. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing class 3. And the funny thing is, I did it kind of backwards. I jumped the gun because I didn't know there was a class 1 student showcase. So I was like, oh, okay, I got to go back and check that out now. And let me tell you, it's a good thing I did because y'all had one of the most impressive entrances, and Brooke Havoc and Cat Spencer are probably tired of hearing me say this. It was when they pulled up in that black vehicle. I forgot what kind of car it was.
It was the Corvette.
And they just came up. Yeah. And I was like, yo, that's real gangster right there, man. I like that. I like how they did that. That's how
they roll, man. How they ride.
But yeah, man. So I gotta say, so what you been up to, man, since the student showcase?
All right, where to start? So after the showcase ended, I went back to Virginia for a couple months, which is where I'm from, and I just kind of rested up my body. I had a couple of nagging injuries towards the end of the camp, especially, and just wanted to kind of rest and kind of decompress from how stressful the whole situation was. not just injuries, but also like I had gotten COVID in the middle of the camp, and I was dealing with the kind of the fallout and the ramifications from that, and just trying to give my body a chance to catch up with everything I had been doing for the last 3 months. So I took a couple weeks off, just kind of resting, relaxing, catching up with friends and family. It was the holidays. And then after that, it was just a matter of saving up money to officially move down to Atlanta to continue to train at the Nightmare Factory, start taking bookings, things of that nature. And so ever since I've gotten back, it has been a lot of networking. It's been a lot of fine tuning of little things. It was funny that you mentioned wanting to figure out what the whole Vibe Curator moniker kind of comes from. And it's because I'm extremely meticulous when it comes to the way that I present things. I'm very particular in how I present my promos, my ring work, any project I do, not just in wrestling, but outside of wrestling. I'm extremely thorough. And so I have kind of had a bit of a slower start compared to a lot of other people from my camp because I'm trying to really take the time to make sure every move that I make is a move that I want to make. And now I've finally laid the groundwork of everything that I'm trying to do. And I think you're really going to see some interesting stuff over the next couple of months.
Awesome, man. Well, they say, what's the one with time? I guess it's my own saying, perfection takes time,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, man. But wow, from Virginia, wow, you're from a pretty rich wrestling area, because you have MCW, which is not too far from VA. You got VCW, and then we're our own Rob Bass, who's actually trained to be a referee. Lives. You have Delaware, which has one CW, which I would
Mm-hmm.
highly. I'm actually jealous of him right now because he lives in Delaware. I'm like, I want to live in Delaware too. Man, he got one CW. All them impressive people, man. Like, shoots.
Yeah.
I'll probably trade you
And
for
then
New
the
York, man. New York it's nice, but I seen what they have down there. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to take a trip to Delaware, man. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
Delaware,
See, I don't know,
Virginia.
man. I'm country, man. That city like give me anxiety every day. I'd be like, oh my lord, I wouldn't be able to sleep. You know what I mean? All the noise, the traffic. I'm like, man, where are my animals at? I need to listen to animals to go to sleep, man. I can't listen to this traffic.
Yeah, but yeah, we're definitely looking forward to see what you got, man. But I just gotta ask. I ask pretty much everybody that comes on the show this one question:
Mhm.
what was the pay-per-view or wrestling event that made you become a fan of professional wrestling?
So it's funny that you asked that because there was no particular match or pay-per-view event. It actually wasn't the real product at all that first got me into wrestling. So when I was 11 or 12 years old, my mom had bought my sister and I this used PlayStation 2. And I had already played through like everything that there was to possibly play through on the GameCube. So I was really excited to get the PlayStation going. I played through all of the games that came with this used PS2, whether it be Star Wars Battlefront 2 or anything like that. And then there was only one game left in the box, and it was SmackDown versus Raw 2007. And I had never played a wrestling game. I never watched wrestling really or anything like that. It had just kind of always kind of flown past my radar. And then I was really bored one afternoon. I didn't really have anything to do. I felt like playing video games, but I wanted to play something new. So I just pop in the game and I'm scrolling through the roster. I'm scrolling through the roster and nobody's really jumping out to me. Because at that point, like I'm not seeing, like right now, I could pick apart, you could line up 100 different wrestlers from the last 20 years and I could tell you exactly who everybody is. But at that point, they all kind of look the same. So then I see Rey Mysterio and I see the bright red mask and I see the whole luchador getup, and I was like, yo, he looks really cool. So I click on him and I'm playing the season mode with Rey Mysterio, and I just started really liking to figure out like the meta and the mechanics of the game. And then like maybe a couple weeks later, and this was 2009. So then a couple of weeks later, I am channel surfing one night, just trying to find something to watch on TV, and I see SmackDown. I was like, hey, I wonder if Rey Mysterio is going to be on that, and he wasn't. But then the first actual match that I ever saw it must have been March of 2009, maybe. It was Shelton Benjamin versus The Undertaker on an episode of SmackDown. And I just remember being absolutely blown away. I had seen Taker in the games, and I knew that he was a big dude, but seeing like live, seeing the man himself, I was just like, oh my God, who is that? So that was really, the games were really more my gateway into professional wrestling. And then from there, like with any kind of fandom I get involved in, as soon as I kind of get that hook of interest, I have to learn everything about it. So I started diving into it. And funny enough, the first pay-per-view match I ever saw had one Cody Rhodes. It was Legacy versus Triple H, Shane McMahon, and was it Batista or Vince? It was during that whole era of Legacy kind of running Monday Night Raw. And so for that to be the first real like big deal match that I ever saw, and then to later be trained by that man, is just the most bizarre of circumstances that I could possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's always crazy, like seeing the people that you actually like enjoyed watching on TV, especially when you're a fan of theirs, and then to all of a sudden like get to meet them somewhere. I remember when I was in New Jersey, and one of my first tag teams I ever enjoyed watching were the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Mario Jannetty. I haven't met Shawn Michaels yet. Hopefully one day I get the opportunity to, but I would never forget when I met Mario Jannetty. I met him, it was in New Jersey, it was 8 years ago. And first thing that I could say when I met this guy was like, yo, you and Sean were awesome. You guys were like my first ever favorite tag team. Yeah, you're like, at the time, I think there was only like three tag teams that I liked. I was like, you guys were my first favorite tag team. And then the tag team after y'all were, and those of y'all that are listening, do not judge me. But the tag team, the tag team after that was the American Males. And then there was London and Kendrick, and I've gotten to meet Buff Bagwell from the American Males. I got to talk to him briefly, and I got to meet Paul London. That was another experience. It was a good one because the only London and Kendrick shirt that they had, I walked into the building that he was performing at. They had a meet and greet, and before I could say anything to him, he was like, "Oh wow, a fan!" And he offered to sign my shirt, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead, man. It's your shirt, man. If you want to sign it, go ahead, man. I mean, Paul London actually signed my shirt. Yeah, it's cool, man. You know, I mean, I'm still a London and Kendrick fan, even though they've both possibly retired. And yeah, man. And I've talked to Brian Kendrick on another podcast briefly, but yeah, there's nothing like meeting like the people that you grew up watching and whatnot. It's just something that's amazing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now that you're a fan of professional wrestling and whatnot, how well, growing up, did you ever get to go to any pay-per-views, any WWE pay-per-views, Impact, Ring of Honor, any of that stuff?
So it wasn't really pay-per-views. I remember when I first started really getting into it, my dad's girlfriend at the time was really, really good at like those radio contests where they give away tickets to like Raw house shows or SmackDown taping or whatever it may be. And so over the span of like 2 years, I probably went to 3 shows as they were going through Virginia, like the Roanoke, Richmond area. And let's see, I know there was the first show I ever went to was a SmackDown ECW Superstars taping. And that was the episode of SmackDown building up to, I think it was the Great American Bash 2009. And it was a double main event between Jeff Hardy and Chris Jericho, and then Rey Mysterio and CM Punk. And those were like the 2 big feuds on SmackDown at the time. And they both kind of got involved in each other's matches. ECW was taped beforehand. And I think maybe Christian versus Tyson Kidd might have been the main for that match, but for that show. But yeah, that was the first show I remember going to. I went to, funny enough, I think that was the last or one of the last dark matches Drew McIntyre had before he got called up to the main roster at that point in time. And then the next year, it was one of Alberto Del Rio's last. Oh, can you not hear me? Okay.
No, you good.
Yeah.
Hmm? Okay. During the next year, Alberto Del Rio had one of his last house show matches before getting called up at a Raw taping. Um, so it was a lot of like live shows and stuff like that, a couple of TV tapings. The first pay-per-view I went to, I think, was Battleground 2016 at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. And that was the show that had the Shield triple threat. It had Bayley's main roster debut. It had Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, like that match that everybody talks about with the double haluva kick at the end. And then actually for my college graduation, one of my best friends, he got us tickets to TakeOver New York and WrestleMania 35. So we were there for Kofi Mania, Rollins beating Brock. Crazy, crazy show. So those are kind of the big live shows that I saw for WWE. And then for the last year and a half, I've been lucky enough to be able to see some AEW stuff with obviously the connection there.
Awesome. That's cool. I've never gone to a SmackDown or a Raw, but I've been to a WrestleMania and a SummerSlam, and hopefully, if everything goes right, I may get to go to Survivor Series. I don't know. I'm thinking about that one, but yeah, but that's pretty awesome. Especially you got to see Bayley's main roster debut. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us now, how did your journey? You know, of course, you're going to the shows now. You're cheering your favorites. How did your journey go from wrestling fan to now professional wrestler?
Right. So this is something that I always thought I would be good at if I had decided to dedicate myself and put in that work. I'd done martial arts for most of my life. And then over the last 7 or 8 years, acting has really been the thing that I do the most. Acting, dancing, tech work, anything that's involved in stage and film, really. And so this kind of feels like it's the overlap in the Venn diagram of the things I've done throughout my life. Being younger and then moving on into young adulthood, martial arts really being the thing, and then taking over with the acting. So I graduated college 2019 and I started working with a couple of regional theater companies. And I ended up getting this really, really great contract in the beginning of 2020. And it was everything I had hoped for. It was going to be like being brought in from out of town. I would have like my own apartment that they took care of, getting paid for rehearsals, performances, the works, lead roles in some of my favorite shows. One of my dream roles I was going to be able to get to play. And it was so exciting. It was so exciting. And then about a month before I was supposed to leave, COVID. And obviously that kind of put a damper on my plans. And so I wasn't really sure what I was going to be able to do, where I was going to be able to go from there. So for the next couple of months, I just kind of laid around. I didn't really do much. My mental health really declined. And I do have a lot of issues with mental health to begin with. And so my depression really, really began to take over because I didn't have any outlet for any creativity that I felt, anything like that. I wasn't staying active. I was just kind of laying around and maybe door dashing just to make sure that I had the money that I needed. And that carried on for months. And I gained so much weight. I was miserable. I was just constantly unhappy. And then one night in late August of last year, I'm scrolling through my phone one night. I am drunk. And I see the application for the Nightmare Factory. And I think to myself, like, okay, do I think I would be good at this? Sure. Do I think that there's any chance, even remotely, that I actually get into this thing? No. But it's a fun story that I can turn around and then tell my friends the next time we go to watch Dynamite together, like, hey guys, I just applied for the Nightmare Factory. Wouldn't that have been crazy? And I figured that was where it was going to start and end. And in the email that I had gotten back after submitting the application, it said I would hear within the next business day whether it was a yay or a nay. A couple of days come and go and I don't really hear anything, so I decide to send a follow-up email, just touching base and saying, hey, I know you guys are extremely busy with everything that you have going on. I just wanted to touch base about this thing. If all of the spots are full or if you just don't like what you see when it comes to my application, that's completely fine. I just wanted to touch base and kind of clear the air. And 5 minutes later, I get a text. and it says, "Hi, this is QT Marshall from the Nightmare Factory. Can I give you a call?" And at this point, I hadn't told a soul that I had applied for the thing. I'm kind of freaking out. I run outside and I start walking laps around my neighborhood while I talk to QT. And he explains to me that they had already filled all of the spots that they had available for the camp, which I figured. This is late August. Applications opened in March. The idea that there was going to be any spots left was foreign at best. And he tells me that they had a couple of people that had to drop because they couldn't afford the camp any longer. So they had a couple of vacancies that they were going through the applications, trying to find somebody to fill those vacancies. And then he gets my follow-up email and he thinks to himself, why am I wasting my time? Why should I go and sift through all these applications when I've got somebody sending a follow-up email, going about things the right way, not sending me a DM on social media saying, "Hey bro, like WTF, what's going on?" So he said he looked at my application, he liked what he saw, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to talk to Cody. I'm going to talk to Glacier. I'm going to talk to Carolyn. I'm going to talk to the other members of the staff of the Nightmare Factory. And you know what? Worst comes to worst, I don't think 26 is going to kill us. If you want a spot, if you can make a spot work, it's yours." And suddenly, this whole new world has opened up to me, and I have to genuinely contemplate whether or not this is something I really think I can do. So I start talking to friends and family left and right. Funny enough, 2 hours after I get off the phone with QT, I turned 23 years old. Literally, like within a couple of hours, it was my birthday. And I'm hanging out with a friend, Ida, and he and I are walking around. And I'm telling him about all of this. And he just kind of stops towards the end of the night. And he goes, "Listen, man, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, if that. I know what you can do. I know how hard you work. I know what things you can bring to the table here. If you don't believe in yourself enough to commit to this completely unique and rare and ridiculous and very you opportunity, let me make up the difference. Let me make up the difference in belief." And he ends up writing me a check for an obscene amount of money to help me cover a lot of my tuition for this camp, which just brought me to tears. I will never be able to repay not just the money, but the show of faith. And the next thing I know, a couple of other friends, I feel like I have to give them the shout outs, Troy, Artie, Kat, all of them feel the need, this compulsive need to help me make this dream a reality. And between them and my family and the things that I had saved up, I now had this swelling of support and this feeling like I could do anything, like I could lift mountains. And so I call QT back, I call Carolyn back, I call the factory back, and I tell them, "You know what? We're doing this." So I had 3 weeks to prep for the camp. And I spend those 3 weeks working out religiously. Because again, at this point, I'm in the worst shape of my life. I hadn't done anything aside from binging Netflix for 3, 4, 5 months. And now I'm expected to go into one of the most athletically demanding endeavors a person could ever do. And not just holding my own safety in hand, but other people's. I need to be in the best shape possible. But it just was this religious working out process. Every waking moment was either working out or working to try to save up as much money as I could. And yeah, then this time last year, I was just getting my feet wet in the Nightmare Factory.
That's cool, and I actually paid off for you. That's, I just gotta say, shout out to your friends. That's really great that you have that, that circle that is supportive and is ready and is ready to pretty much bet on you. And it worked out for you because it was 3 months. It was 3 months, 12 weeks. I heard, and like I said, I wasn't there, but I heard that people dropped out, people started there, and then they dropped out and so on. So
yeah, people were dropping out.
Yeah,
the first couple of weeks, and I thought I was going to be one of those people that dropped out. Right before I left for the camp, I painted each of my fingernails the favorite colors of people that showed support to make me feel like I So every time that I was trying to get, whether it be on the when we're working out or in the ring after getting slammed or trucked by Preston Vance or whatever it is, I would be pushing up off the ground and I would just see those colors. And I would be like, that's right. This is why I'm doing this. If I don't do this for myself, I at least have to prove them right. That was the source of emotional strength was more valuable than even the financial, which was also expensive.
Yeah, that's great. That's and the fact that you kept on that you kept on keeping on, it actually paid off for you because now you actually graduated and you can actually say that you're now officially a professional wrestler. And not only that, you're part of the first class. There's actually a plaque from what I heard. Well, I think I heard it. That's actually in that same building. So now when people go there, they'll be like, oh, snap, that's Luca Wrenne Proctor. He just made his debut against Bray Wyatt. And he took out Bray Wyatt. Dude, that's crazy. Wait, isn't that TSF next year? They're the tag team champions right now. Yo, like they're kind of like the Rockers and the Dudleys, like in one. This is the first time. You guys are making history, right? I'm telling you, trust me. Class 57 or 103 or 900 is gonna look back and they'll be like, "Yo, that was the first class. All of them were in the first class. That's crazy." So yeah, man. I mean, I gotta say, kudos on making that goal. What was it like? What was the feeling like when Cody and the rest of the staff gave you that pat on the back, that handshake, that certificate, and said, "Congratulations, Luca. You can now take bookings all over the country, if not all over the world, as a professional wrestler. Welcome to the industry. Welcome to the brotherhood."
It was sobering, really. When we walked in on the day of our showcase, there was this atmosphere in the air that was just electric. Everybody knew that, for better or worse, no matter what anybody said, no matter what anything happened, at the end of the day, nobody could take away what we'd accomplished on that day. Nobody could say that we didn't cross the finish line. Nobody could say we didn't have our first matches as Cody Rhodes' first students, as a long line of students that QT Marshall has produced. We all had this chip on our shoulder of saying, like, nobody's expecting anything from us, so let's show them everything. Let's make them completely reapproach the way that they look at professional wrestling, in the sense of course, everybody wants to pay their dues. Everybody wants to work the grind. Everybody wants to, climb that ladder and feel themselves making progress. But at the same time, I think so many people overlook these formative steps, if that makes sense. I think so many people will only ever look back on the first few years of their careers and say, "Oh, I wasn't anything," or "Oh, that was terrible," or "I wasn't any good," or whatever it may be. And I'm not saying that we're some incredible thing, but I think we really wanted to go in there and say, like, we didn't want to have a defeatist attitude, basically. We didn't want to go in there and say, it's our first matches, so it's probably going to suck. We wanted to say, these are going to be our first matches, so we're going to start this off with a bang. And we did. And after the match finished, after my match finished especially, I leave the ring and I'm walking to the back and I'm drinking water. And I just think to myself, I should feel more hyped than I do right now. But instead, it was the most focused I had ever felt. It was just this tunnel vision where, like, I could see the next 20 years of my life play out, not just my career, but my life. Because this camp wasn't just about professional wrestling. It was about testing our discipline. It was about testing our endurance and our resiliency. If we could make it through that, we could make it through just about anything. And then to get that pat on the back, to get that stamp of approval, meant the world, especially because as soon as the bell rang to start my first match, I thought back to a conversation I had with all of our coaches about 3 weeks in. I go and I sit down with them in the very same office that I'm sitting in right now. And I say, "Hey, you guys, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I really don't. I feel every time I walk in here, I feel like a fraud. You know, I am this living embodiment of imposter syndrome right now. There are thousands of people that applied for this thing that deserve to be here ahead of me, and I can't wrestle with that guilt, with that feeling like I'm not proving you guys right, that I'm not justifying your endorsement. And not only did they reassure me, but it wasn't this reassurance in some fake way that you could see through, where, you know, they just wanted to stop me from leaving, or they wanted to keep money or anything like that. It was never about that for them. The best thing that Cody said, he put his hand on my shoulder as I'm going to leave the office, and he says, "Hey man, seriously, if you think that there are that many people that deserve to be here instead of you, you can believe that, you can feel that, you can think about that. But what I want you to do is use that as fuel, because the fact of the matter is they're not here right now. You are. So even if they deserve to be here, you need to justify you being here. So that means work that much harder if you have to. That means dig that much deeper if you have to. If you can't make it to the end of the camp, we're not going to think less of you. But if that's how you feel, then that's all the more reason to show up and show out and do everything that you can, so that those people don't feel like, so that anybody else that didn't get a spot, that wasn't in vain, basically." And I thought back to that conversation as soon as the bell rang, and I thought to myself, like, it wasn't in vain. It wasn't in vain. I'm here, and I actually made it. Yeah, it was a lot more about the sentiments for me. Getting the pat on the back was less about looking at the future of my career, and more about validating the 3 months leading up to that moment. I feel like a lot of wrestlers, a lot of people from the factory, when they got that pat on the back, they looked straight ahead and they're like, all right, cool, I'm going to AEW Dark, or cool, I'm going to try for NXT, or I'm going to go, maybe I want to try New Japan Strong, or whatever it is. But for me, all I could think about for the next week was everything that had led up to that moment. So yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. In my opinion, you actually deserve to be. You definitely, if you ask me, you deserve to be there, because you know why? And I'm not just saying this to, like, because like I said, a lot of compliments I give is straight from the heart, and I keep it real. But you didn't give up. You kept on trucking, and you graduated. Now, if it were a case where you went there, you were pretty much, halfwaying all the exercises, and you didn't graduate, and whatnot, then they could probably have a. But if you ask me, you did everything right. I mean, you applied, they accepted you, you did the training, you did the work, you passed, so you deserve to be here. So like I said, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You're a better man than me, because I don't care if I could be a pro wrestler. Rob here is trying as a referee. But I believe that to y'all young boys. Me, I'm cool to be tossing around like that. I believe that to y'all young boys, and I think Kathy might want to get into there too. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that to y'all young kids. I'm gonna sit over here and just be a fan, and just cheer y'all on from the sides. But I just got 2 more questions, because I know Kathy's itching to ask you a couple of questions. You mentioned Netflix, so just expect a barrage of questions from Rob, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. But my next question is, now that the student showcase is passed and you're gearing up for the next phase of your career, your coach Cody had, when he left WWE several years ago, he had a list of an actual list of opponents he wanted to wrestle in the near future. And other wrestlers started following suit and making the same list, and they put it on social media. My second to last question is, who are Luca Wrenne Proctor's top 5 opponents that he wants to face in the near future? They could be from anywhere: WWE, AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, the Indies, New Japan, doesn't matter.
Okay. I think the first answer I have to give is my number 1 dream opponent. Basically, if I could wrestle this man, I could retire happy and just call it a day. Tomohiro Ishii from New Japan. He is my favorite wrestler. Yeah. I would mix it up with like That is the number one match. I would love nothing more than to just have a 25-minute slugfest with and if I walk away from it, great. If I don't, I had a good run. So say Darian.
I don't mean to cut you.
Oh, go ahead.
Tomohiro Ishii. If I ever got into a scrap with Tomohiro Ishii, it would be like my uncle saying, "Look, boy, you want to act tough? Come fight me." I've seen that guy before, and the Stone Pitbull. Oh man,
so good.
Well, go ahead, man.
So Darian Bankston is another guy I would love to get in the ring with. He's actually my roommate right now. He and I will just sit there and constantly talk about not just psychology of wrestling or anything like that, but we both really like to subvert expectations and take typical moves and find ways to do unique spins on them and stuff like that. And I really respect his opinion. I love the way his mind works. I really like his body of work. And on top of that, we have a lot in common outside of wrestling as well. So he feels like one of those people that I would love to have like a nice high profile match either with or against him, like either as a tag partner, as an opponent, both. He's somebody I would really, really love to mix it up with. Jay White is another name I would love to wrestle. I think he is an absolutely phenomenal wrestler. I love his approach to wrestling, how counter wrestling is kind of his specialty. It's always treating wrestling like it is this physical chess match. I love everything about the way that he works. And I couldn't imagine having more fun than going back and forth and trading antics with Jay White. As far as outside of like New Japan, obviously, I feel like these have to be honorable mentions. Obviously, Cody and QT are right there. Cody, QT, Alan Angels, Preston Vance, Aaron Solo, the people that helped train me. All of them, of course, just because I'm a very sentimental person, and that's any match that somebody would want to have is against the people that train them. But, oh, man. Bryan Danielson, of course. I feel like that's an answer that's going to be on so many people's lists. But I love the hybrid style that he works. How obviously he's this supreme technical wrestler, but how he also works in a lot of different influences from different genres that he's worked. And I love wrestlers that really have you buying into every movement that they do. There's no wasted motion. Everything they do is something completely built from their perspective. Like, of course, that's what they would do in this moment, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of wrestlers that do things just because they think they're cool or do things because they think it'll get attention. I tend to be drawn more to wrestlers that stay within their brand, no matter how much that limits their moveset or how much it specifies what kind of style they should be working. Darby Allin is somebody I would love to get in there with. I feel like he's in that same vein as a lot of the guys from like the Never Open Weight in New Japan, the Bryan Danielsons. Even though people look at Darby and they immediately think high flyer, his technical chops are fantastic. And ask anybody from Camp One, some of the ideas that I've had for like things that I'm willing to go through, like myself, are kind of out there as well. So I feel like Darby and I would have a lot of fun kind of going against each other and seeing who loses in this game of chicken. And then I think the last one would be Dustin Rhodes, because we got to do, a handful of us from Camp One got to do this internship with AEW based on winners of different competitions and stuff that we had done throughout the camp. And I was lucky enough to be one of the ones that won. It was a promo competition. And I got to do one of these internships, and Dustin was who I was paired with. And getting to pick his brain all day was a wonderful experience. And I feel like in the same way of facing a trainer, having that cool sentiment, facing Dustin would be a really cool kind of bow on that entire experience. So yeah, I think that would be the list.
Awesome. That's cool. I honestly hope you get to actually I honestly hope you get to actually get all those get to face all those opponents. That'd be a great thing. But But yeah, Tomohiro Ishii and Jay White. Oh, geez. Tomohiro Ishii, like I said, it's like your uncle picking a fight. You come on, man. You think you're a man? Come on, man. Hit me back, man. Give me your best shot. That guy, him and the other guy that's the angry Rob calls him the angry grandpa. The one that's always beating up
Minoru
the young
Suzuki.
boys. I forgot what his name is, man.
Yeah, the murder grandpa. Murder grandpa.
Minoru Suzuki. Yep.
Minoru Suzuki. I don't know what his problem is either, but it's like, geez, man, like those two guys are just brutal in that ring. Oh, geez. But yeah, but I definitely wish you all the best with that. If you end up going to New Japan and you get to go to Japan, I don't know if you've been there already, but if you haven't, savor that flavor. It's a great place to be. I was stationed there for 3 years. I love it. I want to go back to Osaka. It's something. My last question is, so in terms of professional wrestling, where do you see yourself in 5 years in regards to professional wrestling, that is?
You know, I could rack my brain for hours and I could come up with 20 different answers. But I think the thing that's going to be most telling to you guys and to the audience watching, to get kind of an insight to my mindset, is I don't want to know. I don't want to think about where I'm going to be in 5 years. You know what I mean? I don't even want to think about where I'm going to be in 5 months. I really, like you were talking about savoring the flavor, I really love living in the moments that I'm in, because I've noticed in my life this pattern of always looking to the future, always looking for the future, always looking for the future, always looking for the next step and the next step and the next step after that. And I feel like because I'm always looking at the next step, I'm never enjoying the one that I'm in. So it's been a very conscious decision and a very conscious effort over the last year, especially, to allow myself to take a breath and savor any given moment that I'm in, and enjoying these fledgling years, enjoying these formative years, enjoying the matches that aren't good, enjoying the drills that suck because I'm not used to this yet or I'm not used to that yet. Enjoying the training sessions that go all night because we're still so young and excited and hungry, where, you know, we just want to get in the ring at 7 or 8 o'clock at night and stay until 4 in the morning, and then we can't move for 2 days. I love that feeling. I love feeling present and in my body. And I think if I continue to look and continue to try to look into the future and make predictions, all I'm going to do is force myself to try to make moves to go in that direction. And I think the thing that is the most me is kind of just rolling with the punches, seeing where things go and letting the next 5 years play out as organically as possible. I know that's kind of a non-answer, but I hope it gives some insight at the same time.
Yeah, we don't mind at all, man. I mean, everybody, hey, the more different answers, the better. I mean, if you say, hey, I mean, whatever happens, happens. I mean, that's still an answer. I mean, we don't mind. I mean, and that's what makes the world go around, is people giving different answers and having different opinions about certain things and so on. So we definitely welcome that here at Ringside Society. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Kathy, because I know Kathy has a couple of answers as well. She's background because she has a degree in mass communications, and that both has to do with voice, I take it. Kathy, I don't know, but yeah, communicating and so on. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass over to Kathy.
All right, thanks, Remy. Hey, Luca, how's it going tonight?
Good. How are you?
Awesome, doing pretty good. So, you mentioned you had seen Cody in WWE, and you pretty much started. AEW's only about 2 years old, also, and you trained in 2019 too. So, did you watch any of AEW before applying?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I was very much a day one AEW fan. Funny enough, day one is a very appropriate term for me to use. So in 2019, I just, like, literally, as 2019 started, I had just gotten out of a really long-term relationship. She and I had been together for like 5 years, but on top of that had been inseparable for like 10 or 11. And we broke up on New Year's Eve going into 2019. So like a couple of hours later, the ball drops, and I'm like, cool. I guess this is what this year is going to be like. But then, if you guys remember, New Year's Day 2019 is when they announced AEW. So to have this breakup happen, and I'm not going to air any dirty laundry or anything like that, but it was the kind of relationship where I would never have been able to take on an endeavor like this. I would have never even begun to consider it. So for that door to close, and then literally, it's the cliche, another door opens immediately after, and then to be trained by the man that started the company is the most bewildering and kind of poetic and coincidental thing. But yeah, I watched All In with a couple of friends. I bought All In, I bought Double or Nothing. I would have like groups together, and I would just introduce a bunch of random people at the school that I went to. We would just have like these viewing parties at my house, and a bunch of people would come over and we would watch whatever pay-per-views were on. So yeah, day one with AEW. And it's kind of been just, as far as the American scene is concerned, it's been mostly AEW since they've surfaced. I loved NXT. And there's a lot of people on Raw and SmackDown that I love. But as far as the storylines, as far as the creative, as far as everything like that, it's like I'll tune in for matches for specific people in WWE, but AEW actually has me excited on Wednesday. Like I wake up and I'm like, yo, tonight's going to be crazy. I can't wait to see what this is going to be. And even as a wrestler now, I still retain that level of excitement, which is something I really, really enjoy. Because I was always worried that getting into wrestling could kill the passion, could kind of hurt my appreciation as a fan, but it's only helped strengthen it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You don't want to, it's kind of like when you want to meet your favorite wrestlers, you hope they don't disappoint you, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a good thing. Like you wanted to be a wrestler and it exceeded your expectations instead of like, oh man, why did I do this? Like I'm not a fan anymore. Like I guess it does turn some people sour because they get to, you see like behind the scenes and you see, it's not just what you see on TV. You
Right.
see people struggling and you see people and it's like, man, like this isn't for me anymore. But I'm glad that didn't happen to you for sure.
Yeah.
So my next question, so like what are the criteria for like graduation? Like I know you have to bump well and like different, fundamentals of wrestling, but like what do they look for in a wrestler to like actually graduate from the Nightmare Factory?
So their big thing is resolve above all else. They don't expect anybody to be able to go through a 12-week course and be ready to go out and have full-blown matches and be able to do the kinds of things that honestly we were able to do in that first camp. I remember Cody told us after our battle royal, he said that was 40,000 times better than it had any right to be. Given our level of experience, given the people that were involved and the personality clashes and everything like that. Not that there was like drama or anything like that, but just given who we were, where we were at that point and everything like that, there was no reason that it should have worked out the way that it did. So it's not like they have a specific standard on how well you bump or how good you are at doing a specific kind of move or anything like that. It's really if you have the fortitude to continue to push past all of the things that you mess up. Like, for example, the first day that we worked on drop kicks was the worst day of probably the last 4 or 5 years of my life. Because like I mentioned before, I'd done martial arts, and I do a lot of stage combat and acting and stuff like that. And with both bumping and with a lot of the kicks that I throw, I was taught a very specific way of doing it. And it's been a really difficult process to fight my muscle memory when it comes to doing things the wrestling way. So we did drop kicks. I probably threw or attempted to throw a good 50 drop kicks that night, and not a single one of them were any good. Every one of them was just garbage. And at one point, QT literally said, you know what? I have a $50 bill in my wallet. If you can hit this next one perfectly, the $50 is yours. And I did not do it. But that wasn't the criteria to graduate. Again, it was about the resolve. Now, there are things that they looked at for us, and they kind of gave us feedback at the end of the camp about how we did on certain things. QT always refers to it as a report card. He said, if you want to be a successful wrestler, look at everything in your game like a report card. You don't want to have any D's or F's. You barely want to have a C, but if you have to have a C, as long as everything else is okay, like, you'll be fine. Like, I learned and got good at drop kicks because I practiced them religiously the next couple of days. But if I had never gotten them, if I had never been able to do one, if I still wasn't able to do one, that wouldn't be some sort of death knell. You know what I mean? As long as I have these other things that I'm really good at. You never have to do anything as a wrestler, at least offensively, that you don't want to do. If I don't want to climb to the top rope, I don't have to climb to the top rope. But yeah, so it was really just a matter of making sure that you were doing the best that you could in every one of those categories. If I attempted to throw a drop kick and that wasn't good, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to try it again because I don't want to be embarrassed, or I'm afraid of getting hurt or whatever, that would have hurt my chances to graduate. It's about your emotional and mental approach to the physical, not the physical itself, if that makes sense. That was really more what they looked at, especially because none of us really had any prior experience. A couple of people had a few months of training here or there, but the first camp especially, they really wanted it to be completely from scratch. So they weren't expecting us to be, any sort of prodigies. It was really, again, just about if we could hang with how difficult it is.
So now that you learn the fundamentals of wrestling, and I asked this to Dean Hiram, was another one that we had on the show. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of the table, so you learn wrestling, but you also learn life lessons doing training. And the one he said that stuck out was to slow down in life, because he passed everything, slow down. And that's what they told him in wrestling, and they told him that in life too, and that's what he took with him. And you said yourself, like, you don't want to look into the future too much. You kind of slowed down your life too. You'd like to, absorb everything as it's happening, because you didn't want to look too much into the future because you were missing out on stuff. Mm-hmm. So, like, what were your life lessons that you got from the Nightmare Factory?
So that was a big one. For me, a lot of the lessons were not like new concepts, but they were validation and confirmation of concepts I'd thought about before. Like, there's anybody that I know that's watching this is about to laugh at me because the amount of times they've heard me start a sentence with, that reminds me of this poem. Poetry is one of my favorite things in the world. It really affects my promo style and things like that. But there's constantly like lines from poems that pop into my head and that are applicable to any given situation. There's this poem by A.R. Ragland and Jared Singer called Potential. And as soon as this podcast ends, I recommend everybody go and listen to it. And it basically is saying that it is easy to Larry Bird. It is easy to Johnny Cash. It is easy to walk away from something when you're at the best. It's easy to do anything that doesn't mean you have to fail. Like, that was a weird way of wording it, but I guess what I mean is, if I go, like Michael Jordan is a god-tier basketball player, obviously considered the greatest of all time by many, many historians of basketball, many fans of basketball, whatever it is. And then he goes and plays baseball. And he was not afraid to look like a fool playing baseball because he wanted to see how far he was capable of going. Or when he comes back to basketball, his last year on the Wizards, and this is all talked about in the poem as well, how he, quote, would go down the court like a wounded giraffe, tilting like he might fall and never get back up. And it was saying thank you, because we don't need examples of greatness. We don't need examples of success as a country, as a planet. We don't need examples of success. We need examples of people that are willing to push through even when they're failing. It's easy to walk away with a crown. It is easy to say, I did my best, or I succeeded at something, now I'm going to walk away. But for me, I'm just going to start quoting this poem because it's just too good for me to paraphrase any better. I want to drown in my sweat knowing that there's nothing left. I want to know that however far that I get is as far as I'm capable of going. They say that Icarus was a fool for flying too close to the sun. I say it is only because of him we know how close that we can actually get. And that was the big thing that I kept thinking about during this camp, whether it be the drop kicks, whether it be just the workouts, because those were horrible. 3 or 4 hours at a time, just ripping our bodies apart, getting a 30-minute break, and then doing in-ring. Like, no matter what it was, everything in that camp posed a challenge to one of us in some way, shape, or form. But all of us that made it to that final showcase, we said no matter what we struggled with, whether it be a move, whether it be the strength and conditioning, whether it be promos, whether it be having to put yourself out there, whatever it was, we all faced something that we weren't comfortable with, that we weren't good at, and we didn't stop. And the true reward, I think, that I got from that camp was being able to push past all of those limits and pushing past what I thought I was capable of. And if it was just me at that camp, like kind of repping my own personal pride, if that makes sense, I would not have been able to make it to the end, I don't think. It was because of this desperate need to validate the belief that all of my loved ones had in me to get to that point, to validate the belief that my coaches had for me, to validate the belief that the fellow classmates had. Because one of the things we had talked about constantly, especially like me and Hunter Knott from TSF, before the camp ever started, he and I talked so much about how we wanted to create this environment in the camp where we all lifted each other up no matter what. There is enough politics in wrestling as it is. We don't need to be at each other's throats. This is already going to be the hardest thing we ever do. We might as well do what we can to try to make it easier on each other. And I learned, so again, it was the slowing down. It is to being able to persevere is noble in its own right. And that it's so much more rewarding to succeed while you're lifting other people up than to succeed while holding others down, I guess, is the most succinct way for me to answer that question. Sorry, I'm a very verbose person. I'm very talkative.
No, you're good. Yeah, that's got to be pretty awesome. Like you watch wrestling as a fan, you watch it growing up, and then it's like, okay, well, I want to try this, but you don't know what you're good at. You don't know, and you go through the training to find out. And it's like you said, like you could be good at something, but like those drop kicks got you. You're like, oh, and it must be like it probably sucks at the time, but it's probably pretty cool too at the same time to be like, okay, I've pretty much failed at this. I'm gonna work on it, and then I'm gonna actually get it right, and I'm gonna like that's gotta be an amazing feeling, like just going through the process of training. That's pretty
Exactly.
awesome.
Every single one. So I came in on a day off, and I just set up a crash pad in the ring and just threw probably about 300 drop kicks, no lie. And I immediately regretted it the next day because I could not move my legs at all. But I threw like 300 something drop kicks. I think it was 328. And the first 40 or 50 times, it was just about blowing through the fear of not landing the right way or of looking bad or whatever. And after that, I'd set up like a tackle dummy that we have in the facility. And every single time I could feel myself getting closer to getting it right. And it was like I was being able to see myself from a third person point of view. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting closer. And like, it got to the point where I threw the crash pad out and I didn't care how many times I bumped. It felt so good to throw that drop kick and be like, all right, now I just got to do it a little bit up, a little bit to the right, or saying like, all right, I need to keep my feet together more, or whatever it is. Feeling like I was actually honing in and making the progress and being able to almost see it out of my own body was, like you said, just the most rewarding feeling I could possibly imagine.
That's got to be awesome. Just like it's kind of like when people learn how to shoot guns or like throw a football or something, and it's like, okay, I'm almost there. Like when you actually know, that's got to be like, yay, I did it. So cool.
Yeah.
So another moment, where you probably went, yay, that's awesome, was graduation. So some people when some people win Super Bowls, they're like, I'm going to Disney World. Like, what did you do when you graduated? Like, how did you feel that day, and what did you do afterwards?
So the night before was actually more of our Disney World moment than anything else. So the day before the showcase, we have 4 rings in the facility, and we broke a couple of them down. We moved a couple out of the way and then set up the whole setup for the showcase. And then we worked on a bunch of different ideas. All of the different coaches were there. A couple of other people came in to help us out as well. If anybody had any moves they wanted to workshop, this was like your last chance to do it. Like, if I really wanted to learn how to do a paradigm shift, or if I really wanted to do a gotch style pile driver, or if somebody wanted to do a shooting star press or something like that, this was our time to work on that as much as possible before the next day. And it felt like Christmas Eve for everybody. We were so excited. And we were wrapping our presents while we were working on these moves, basically. And then a handful of us decide that we are too revved up and too excited to sleep. So it would be better spent to go out, blow off some steam, and then try to go to bed. So me and I think 6 other people, and then also a friend of mine, Ida, the one that gave me the check, he came into town to see the showcase. We all went out for karaoke. Drunk karaoke. And just sitting around and relaxing for what felt like the first time in ages, singing all of these random old school songs, whether it be Lips of an Angel by Hinder, or just some old Rodney Atkins song. Like, we were going through every genre you could think of. And then the last song we did, because of course we had to do it, was Kingdom by Downstate. We had to do Cody's music. And we sang and yelled so loud that the next day all of our voices were hoarse. And like I said, that kind of felt like our Disney World moment. And because as soon as the showcase ended, I said goodbye to my friend that came in to see the show. Everybody kind of said our goodbyes. We hung around, we talked, and we decompressed, and we talked things out for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. But then once I actually got back to the Airbnb I was at, I ordered Taco Mac, got the biggest, nastiest cheeseburger I could possibly pay for. I got the cheeseburger, I got fries, I got onion rings, I got chicken strips. And I was like, you know what? I'm making a night of it. I haven't eaten any of this stuff in months. I am going to town. I did. I went to bed, and then the next day I drove 6 or 7 hours back to Virginia with a couple of cracked ribs. And so the whole time I'm sitting hunched over, and I can feel like this just shooting pain, this like just needling pain the entire drive. But I just had a huge smile on my face the whole time. Because I was like, I'm done. I don't care if it hurts. I can sleep for the next month if I wanted to. So Disney World for me was my bed. And it was as rewarding as Disney World could ever be.
That's awesome. So you mentioned some of your trainers, those Cody, QT Marshall, and Glacier, a lot of those, people that we know. You also mentioned by their real name, their wrestling name too, but the Dark Order. Mm-hmm. And of course we had, Brody Lee was his little his episode on Dynamite, because it was from Rochester, where he's from. Did you get to meet Brody?
I did not.
Oh,
so
okay.
and it killed me. He was like one of maybe 2 or 3 people on AEW's roster that I really wanted to meet when I was down there for the internship that I didn't get to. Because let's see, Cody actually won back the TNT championship while I was laying in bed with COVID during the camp. And then about a week after I get back from COVID, so maybe like 6 or 7 days later, we get ready to do our internship, and Brody was off TV after he dropped the title. So that was when we went into the internship. And so it was like 2 ships passing in the night. And it really, really sucked, because Brody Lee, it was a clip of his that really turned me on to wrestling outside of WWE. So there were 2 clips that really broadened my horizons. I'd seen this crazy match finish on an episode of Raw or something, and I was trying to find it on YouTube, and I didn't know who it was or anything like that. So I just typed in best wrestling match finish ever. And if you go and you type that on YouTube, what pops up is Claudio Castagnoli, Cesaro, versus Mike Quackenbush. And it's this like 2-minute finish from a match that they had. And it blew my mind. But the clip that I saw before that was Brody Lee kicking the soul out of the body of Tim Donst. And if you've seen the clip, you know exactly the one I'm talking about. Bryce Remsburg goes and he checks the knee pads on Tim Donst. And while he's kneeling in front of him, Brody Lee just kicks over Bryce's head. And I swear you could see the instant that the life left Tim's body and then snaps back in. It sounded like a shotgun going off. And I probably watched that clip 100 times. And so he was the first person I really followed outside of WWE. And I actually use the Gator role now as a tribute to Brody Lee and how he helped me kind of broaden my horizons and make wrestling go from a casual thing into a true fandom. And so I always thought like, oh, he's not at TV this week, but it's cool. I can meet him some other time. Maybe if I get to come back, even if it's just doing some crowd work or something like that, then I can hopefully get the chance to meet him one day. And when he passed, it felt like the most surreal experience. I remember I've got the three friends I mentioned earlier, Troy, Artie, and Kat. They all have a house together, and I've gotten all three of. So Troy was into wrestling, and he and I got the other two into wrestling, and we've shown them tons and tons of stuff, and they became massive fans of Brody Lee in AEW. So when we found the news, we weren't planning on hanging out that night, but we ended up just getting together and watching a bunch of his old matches together. We got ice cream from like a favorite local spot and just kind of just sat there and celebrated the life. I never got to meet him, and he's one of those people I really would have loved to not only meet but get in the ring with. Like when you asked me the question earlier, Remy, about who I wanted to face, I had to stop myself from saying Brody Lee. And I had this moment where, and you can go back and you can watch it, I kind of catch myself before I make an answer, and that's what I was going to say. That tribute episode was the most moving thing I've experienced in wrestling, probably, period. And man, the connection that I felt, especially because a couple of members of Dark Order trained me, watching that show happen, watching Preston Vance main event that tribute show, watching 10 main event that tribute show with Cody. Because the main event was, I don't remember who they were facing, actually, off the top of my head, but it was Cody, Orange Cassidy, and 10, because they were -1's favorite wrestlers. And seeing two of the three guys that I trained main eventing such an important show in wrestling really validated that the Nightmare Factory was the right place for me to go and train. Yeah.
Now, did Preston and Tin ever, like when there was downtime, did they ever share Brody stories? Like, you know, he throws the papers at people, you know, funny stuff like that. Did they ever share stories like when there was downtime while training?
Yeah. Now, granted, those stories are obviously not mine to tell. But yeah, there were a lot of moments of hearing some of the crazy antics. Like really any time a group of wrestlers gets together, it's just a matter of when they end up sharing odd, funny stories and embarrassing things or funny things or wild things. And actually for 4th of July this year, a bunch of us from the factory and some people from like the local Georgia scene stuff got together and hung out, and Alan Five Angels was in that group, and some of the stories he told, like there are things from that night that I cannot unsee and unhear. Not just his, but whether it be, anybody that was there that night. Oh my God.
That's pretty cool. So my next question is, so you mentioned the Vibe Curator a little bit, but what's your character for people that didn't maybe see this showcase and to get to know you more? Like, what's your character if you have one, and what's your wrestling style?
Okay, so the best way that I can think to describe my approach to wrestling is a fae. Now, when people think of fairies, they think Tinkerbell, they think whatever. They don't think of like the Grimm's fairy tales. That's the direction I'm going. Because people don't realize how many fairy tales are based on some really dark stuff. Like the Brothers Grimm traveled all over Europe collecting stories through mostly word of mouth, and then kind of transposing them into their own style and adding these flares of horror, or just highlighting the horror that was already there. So I really like the idea of having, and really just dialing up parts of my personality. Like the Vibe Curator thing comes from me being a very eclectic and eccentric person. It's very much like I'm obsessed with aesthetics, and I'm very particular about how I put things together. Whether it be the way that I cook meals, the way that I write music, the way that I write promos, anything I do all has like a rhyme and reason to the madness. And I'm very careful about that. So the Vibe Curator thing, it was never an actual nickname. So I thought it was kind of funny when that was what like I was kind of promoted as for the podcast. It was just something I put on there because I thought it was funny. It was an inside joke with some friends. But I do kind of like the sound of it as an actual like moniker. But it's really just that I'm a very playful, whimsical, easygoing, light-hearted, fun kind of person. I like to dance while I'm in the grocery store. I've got my headphones on, and I'm just vibing. I'm just vibing. I'm just doing whatever. And I've just stopped caring what anybody thinks or feels about it, because I'm just kind of off in my own little world. And so it's taking that aspect, dialing that up, and then showing what happens when that fairy, when those pretty woods, when it gets dark. Like knowing that this playful demeanor has some sadism behind it. Knowing that there is, like, yeah, I'm having fun, but what am I having fun doing? Am I having fun with the lockups and the wrist locks, or am I having fun stomping your head into the mat? Either way, it's a great time for me, but for you, not so much. So it's really just playing off of, like, it's really just being as whimsical and carefree as possible. It's playing with that dynamic of light and airy and breezy and fun and sinister. So the ring style is very, very technical. As I mentioned before, it's the background in martial arts. I use a lot of the things that I've learned over the last 15 years of doing that. It's a lot of those things mixed in with anything that sounds interesting to me, if that makes sense. Like, I can go out and I can chain wrestle with somebody for 15, 20 minutes if I wanted to, and have that be the only thing in the match. But my flair for the dramatic will not allow me to just do that. So I'm going to have fun while I do it. It could be saying like, all right, cool, I've got this wrist lock or I've got this hammer lock. What if I weaved it through the ropes and trapped them in the ropes that way, and hit a big forearm or something? It's playing, it's looking at the wrestling world and looking at the canvas like a canvas, like a painting, and saying, all right, I have red, I've got blue, I've got green, I've got all of the fundamentals of a professional wrestler. Let me see if I can make a color that people haven't seen before, or make shades of it, or make a picture that people haven't seen before. It is, the beginnings of my matches usually stay very playful, but not just playful, but it's sportsmanlike. It's about competition. It's about the spirit of competition. It's about one-upping somebody in a battle of wits, in a battle of wrist lock versus hammer lock versus headlock versus whatever. And as the match progresses and I start to get more and more into the zone, I start to bare my fangs a little bit. And, I may tie somebody up and then just hit a big forearm out of nowhere, and I haven't thrown a strike all match, and suddenly I'm just wailing on this person. It's taking the building blocks of technical wrestling and seeing what else I can make from it is the best, most succinct way I can kind of explain that.
So before Remy had even mentioned, he asked you about the Vibe Curator, in my head, and before you even just said what you said, in my head, I thought, okay, curator to me is like an event planner, like the head, they're the person that's in charge of the event. A vibe is like what you set the tone for, so I'm like, you're the event toner, like kind of event planner of sorts. And what you just said was what I was thinking in my head. I was like, it might not be official, but maybe you should use that, because like you set the tone for your matches.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
was like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I had that in my head, and before like even Remy, I was like vibe curator. Like that's what that means to me. And
Mhm.
let's see if it meant, and it meant almost the exact same thing. So I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's all about setting the tone.
Yep, there you go. So my last question before I turn it over to Rob is usually sometimes they'll have extras on AEW. Have you gotten to do anything during the show like on Dynamite or Rampage?
Not yet. Not yet. Now that being said, the episode that we did the internship, like the day that we went down for TV for the internship, the very first shot of the live arena that night was my face, which I take a lot of pride in. Especially because there were a couple of people that didn't know I was doing the camp at all. Didn't know I had anything to do with wrestling. Like, obviously, people noticed that I wasn't in town for, a month and a half. But I just told them I was doing like a stunt training camp for acting. And then I had a friend that was watching wrestling and he goes, yo, like he took a picture of it, sent it to me. And during a commercial break, I looked at my phone and saw me on my phone on TV, which was really weird. Now, that being said, that was the only time that I was really fully involved with, like, I wouldn't say fully involved, but the only time I was involved with the production for AEW yet. I would love to get in there and do some stuff. Now, while I haven't done anything on screen, one thing that I have been doing a lot of is working in consultations for promos. So promos are my bread and butter, whether it be the acting background, the poetry background. They're both things that I love with all of my heart and soul. And so there have been a number of people at the factory or people that just come through the factory from AEW or other companies, and I've been helping them with their promos. Which has been a really, really cool process to just kind of hang out with certain people. They've asked that I don't name drop them in things like this, at least yet. But it's really cool to sit back and watch TV, a week later and see things that I had kind of helped them work on and see promos that I helped them put together and be like, yo, I helped influence something that's on AEW TV. That's mind-boggling to me. So, yeah. That is that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I figured with your background that you would help people. So that's pretty cool. Like you're already doing something in AEW, even though it's not on TV yet. But yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And whether or not it ever turns into, whether or not I ever actually end up in AEW, who's to say? I'd love it, of course. That's where, of course, I would want to be. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I am happy to contribute to the business as a whole in any way. And if that's helping people with promos from WWE or AEW or Ring of Honor or anywhere, I just want to help. I just want to leave the business in a better place than I found it.
Yeah, that's what everybody should strive for. Keep that knowledge that you to teach other people, what you were taught, keep it going, and then to leave it better than how you found it, basically.
Exactly. Just pay it forward.
Awesome. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Had an awesome time interviewing you. And I saw the last thing I'll say before I turn over to Rob, saw on your Instagram. So you said you talked a little bit about it too. 23 was your birthday and you went to train for Cody. 24, you graduated. So what I want to say before I turn over to Rob is that at 25, I'd like to see like where you're headed. That'd be pretty awesome. And you could write, hey, at 25, I did this, this, and this.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I'm going to keep doing the post you were talking about where I kind of touched on the whole difference of year to year. I'm going to keep that going, I think, every year of my career and maybe the rest of my life. It's interesting to kind of look back at these different chapters.
It'd be interesting, yeah, like you said, to see. I would like to see what happens when you turn 25. So that'd be pretty cool. See how you progress. All right, Rob.
So much.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. So what's going on, man? How's everything doing? You're going your way, man.
Everything's going great, man. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man. It was I was ready for a nice autumn fall day, man, but it was like kind of hot in the house, man. I was like, what in the world is this coming, man? Like, what in the world? Hopefully it'll cool down, this week or whatever. But yeah, other than that, it's all right. It's pretty good. Ate some chili, made some chili, something good.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So you do anything great today, man? Anything exciting?
I just worked most of the day. Got off work at about 4, went back to the house, cleaned up the beard a little bit, and then headed this way to get everything set up for this right here. As soon as we get done here, I'm going to do some training and stuff like that. There's no rush because it's just going to be working on a couple of ideas I've got bouncing around in my head. But yeah, it's just been a nice, easy Sunday.
That's good. That's good, man. Look, easy Sundays are always great, man. They're always the best, man. Now, you were talking about a little earlier, man, when you were doing training, you were like, man, I am not in shape doing training and all that stuff, man. Now, I could sympathize with you with that because when I was with working with 1C, I was helping with them, doing ring work and all. And one show, like 3-4 refs called out, didn't show up, and then they're like, man, I need rest. And I was like, man, you train me, I could be a rest. They're like, word up, all right, we're starting school like next week after or something. Come on, I'm like, man, I'm 39 years old and all. It's like, yeah, I don't work out. He looked me in my eyes and was like, all right, so what kind of cardio have you done? I was like, well, for the past 20 years, the only cardio I've done is lovemaking and woodworking. That's about it. He laughed. He's like, all right, man, this is how we going to go. I was like, all right, man. And yeah, I've been doing good ever since, I guess, because I don't, smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, I guess that helps a tiny bit, maybe, but, but yeah. I remember we had a first match. It was like a little practice match. We didn't do any bumps. We were just rolling and stuff. And it was about 5-6 minutes. And I remember after that, I wanted to throw up. I don't know about you. If in your first match, whatever. I remember I was sitting there. I was done. And I was like, oh, I had to sit there for a minute because I thought I was like going to be like, hold on one second, Liv. But did you have anything like that when you first started training?
Oh yeah. Especially with the workouts that we were doing. Let's see. I think in the first couple of weeks, I probably threw up more. But for me, that was like a good thing because it showed it was telling me that I was working as hard as I had to. I wasn't cutting corners. So the heaviest I've ever been, which was right before the camp started last year, 315 pounds. Ooh. And today I clocked in at 228.
Oh, nice.
And about 30 of that, about 35 of it, I think I dropped during the camp, which is, it is so interesting to see pictures of myself from last year, this time last year, like I'll see it on like Snapchat memories or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and I see pictures and I don't recognize myself for a split second. And then I think like, oh yeah, that's because I worked out till I puked for 3 months. That's right. What that'll do.
That's right.
That happened a bunch. I got blown up in the drill or blown up in drills in the ring constantly. But I loved it. I loved that feeling of like trying to gasp for the next breath and being like, all right, cool. I can barely move, but I'm gonna move. Like seeing how far past what I thought my limits were that I could push was really, really cool, because if it wasn't for the situation I was in, if it wasn't for that level of pressure that comes from training at the Nightmare Factory with Cody Rhodes watching me do blow-up drills in the ring, if it wasn't for that level of pressure, I don't think I would have pushed myself nearly as far as I did. It's like the old saying, you don't know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. It was a lot of that throughout the camp. And then the only time I threw up wrestling was the first match back I had from COVID. We did like this little, it was like a 2-minute practice match, and it was me and Aaron Solo. And I was the only person that wrestled a coach because there were an odd number of us there that day or something like that. And originally they were having me sit out on a handful of things just because they knew my lungs were kind of messed up from COVID. And then I looked at him and I was like, all right, I think I do want to try this. And I had a buddy in the camp that was willing to go a second time with me. And then Solo volunteered. He and I go in, we do the whole thing. It went off without a hitch. There were no errors or anything like that. But as soon as the 3 count was hit, I was like, oh no. I rolled out of the ring. I run out onto the loading dock and I threw up. And I was like, man, this is going to be a long road back, because like it felt like just as I was really making progress in the weight room and in the ring, COVID hit, and I was like, man, of all the times to get it, it really messed up my momentum. But I got everything back on track, I'd like to think.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because I've been doing this a couple months and stuff, and I've been like, like, man, I was thinking I'm gonna start getting a 6-pack. Maybe I get an ab or two or whatever, man. I'm like, man, I'm not getting no abs or whatever. But yeah, I go in the ring and that if I do a 5-6 minute match or whatever, I'm not throwing up anymore. You know what I mean? I can actually I can run the ropes. You know what I mean? I can hit them. I do those and all that stuff. But yeah, I can see it. In the training. You know what I mean? I may not be working like y'all did, working out like y'all did or whatever. But yeah, I can see the training. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm not hitting the ropes. I'm not tore up anymore. Then I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see a little.
Yeah.
I'm in ring shape. I'm in ring shape. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah, because I was like, all right, yeah, training for a ref. I was like, all right, man, I'm training for a ref. And it's like, all right, today we're going to throw you in the corner. We're going to run at you. And you got to throw us over here. I'm like, I thought I was going to go 1, 2, 3. What? I'm just joking. I love doing all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's so fun. Like, I wish I found this earlier. You know what I mean? Taking a bump, you know what I mean, in the ring. I was like, I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I did my first one. I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, here we go. I'm ready for this. Oh, yeah. I didn't know how it was going to be, man. It was pretty cool. Now, you were talking earlier, man. You got into wrestling. SmackDown versus Raw 07. Now, I had to run back real quick and go to my bedroom or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah. And then hold on a second. I'll show one page of this because I don't want to show all my geekdom or whatever. But yeah, this when I go against my friends, you know what I mean? I write all the drafts down. Who's champion? Who's the rivalry? Who I want to be in a rival? All that stuff is GM mode. Yeah. I get a little crazy with that stuff, man. I can't. Yeah, it's like, oh man.
Well, I'm right there with you, man.
I got
GM
this
mode. I logged so many hours on that thing.
Then I got this one with ECW. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do you, man? GM mode. You logged in a bunch of hours or whatever, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Oh man. Like, how long did it take for you to beat the computer, man? It took me like a few tries or whatever, man. It wasn't the first go, man. I was like, what in the world? Like, oh man. After that, I was like, okay, here we go.
I think it was probably the second go. I think the first time I just did whatever sounded fun. Like I was just throwing random things against the wall. I had no, like I understood the psychology of putting a show together and stuff like that, and I knew what the computer wanted you to do. I was like, why am I going to do that? Like that defeats the purpose. That's half the fun is coming up with all this crazy stuff. And then once I had one go through of just doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, I was like, all right, cool. Now I'm going to retry it and I'm going to do it like I'm actually trying to beat the thing. And I managed to. And yeah, I don't know. I think I spent a ton of time. And this is the level of dedication to my nerddom. A lot of the time I spent playing GM mode was not just putting the matches together, but then like sitting there and imagining in my head exactly how I feel like the match went. And then I would come up with spots, I would come up with sequences, I would come up with specific moments that would happen during the match. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Well, if this happened with this, then maybe this could lead to somebody doing this later. Like just like the notebook you had, I had notebooks where it was like, all right, let me see just how in depth I can really make this.
Oh yeah. And see, that's not the only one. This one right here is my Fire Pro Wrestling book, okay? Like I have this, I'm not going to show all the pages. I'll just show one page or whatever, you know what I mean? But yeah, I write down who's won the match, you know what I mean, where I want to go, well, all this stuff, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I get wrapped up into that stuff. I start playing it, my day's just gone, you know what I mean? Because I'm sitting there like, okay, I got to do this and It's kind of like playing The Sims. I don't know if you ever played The Sims. It's like, oh, you might as well just write me off for today. I'm done. Now, you were talking earlier about, you were worried about, doing wrestling stuff. It would ruin your fandom, man. I had that same feeling, man. But I found that it gives me a different perspective watching a match. You know what I mean? I don't go in there, anymore. Now I'm like, oh man, okay, I see okay, yeah. Do you do that now? Like, you have a different perspective when you're watching a match. You're like, okay, yeah, here we go, all like that.
Yes and no. I feel like that's the default now. The default now is going in and watching it as a peer, as a fellow worker. But then there are some days where I just turn on a show and I'm like, I'm just going to watch this as a fan. Like, I don't want to have a critical eye for everything that I watch. And it's the same way with theater. and film. Like, it's what I got my degree in. It's what I got multiple degrees in. I could go in and watch every movie that I go to see and have a critical breakdown of it by the end of it. But sometimes I just want to sit back and enjoy it, you know? And like All Out is a great example. A couple of friends, we sit around, we had some food, we had some drinks, and we just watched it as a fan, as just a group of fans, and we had a blast. By the end of the show, we're fucking standing up, we're pumping our arms, we're losing our minds to the end of the show. And that is something I never want to lose, no matter how long I'm in the business. I could go 20 years from now. I could have multiple world championships. I could win the G1, which is on my bucket list. I could do anything, no matter what my career holds. I never want to lose the joy of just being able to watch it as a fan. I think Stone Cold Steve Austin's a great example of that. Whenever you listen to him on the podcasts that he does, he still loves wrestling as a fan. And that's what I hope to kind of be able to say at the end of my career, is that I still love it as a fan, not just as an artist or a worker or a wrestler.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. Yeah, I love. I still love watching it. You know, just you're going up there. Oh. There we go. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're just saying you got multiple degrees in acting, music, all that good stuff, man. Well, fun fact, you know, before the show or whatever, we were getting on here. I'm sitting here jamming to my music, you know what I mean, bobbing my head, you know what I mean, hanging out. And then Kathy and Remy pop in, you know what I mean, let me go on for a minute. I'm like, oh man, they're laughing at me for jamming. I was like, all right, yeah. But anyway, Halloween's coming up and all, man. Have you been acted in any scary movies, man? Have you been like, you know, a dead body? Have you, you know, been a victim or something, man? You been in something cool, a zombie or anything?
I have. That's been very fun. I haven't really done a lot of extra work, nor have I sought out a lot of extra work for things like horror movies or big budget shows. There was a day where two friends and I went and we were just a couple of zombies on, I don't remember what it was. It was some movie that ended up, it was like a straight to DVD thing, but it was still really fun. But mostly the projects I work on are ones that I try to be as like hands-on with as possible, because I'm insatiable. Whether it be, and it's not just as a performer either, also as a technician, as a light designer, as a sound designer, as a director, as a stage manager, whatever it is, if it involves being a part of that process, I want to do it. And so there have been some horror projects that I've gotten to do, both as a director and performer, and they have been so much fun. Scary things are really interesting to work on, because you never know if a scene is going to make you as an actor or director laugh or be afraid. Even if I was watching it as a fan and it would scare the daylights out of me, sometimes just being there in person and seeing like, oh, that's not a terrifying monster. That's just Everett. He and I rode here together. We were singing the Backstreet Boys. Like, sometimes you just have these moments where you're like, you kind of like take a step back and you can almost like have x-ray vision through the costume and makeup. And you're like, that's just my buddy. That's just my friend.
That's right.
Speaking of horrors that are comedic, for all of the Ringside Society fans in Virginia, let me tell you, Wolfbane Productions, they're doing a production of Young Frankenstein right now. Go check it out. Amazing show with a great cast. Yeah, horror projects are particularly fun to work on. Because like I said, sometimes like you yourself will be scared, even if you're the one in the scene, even if you're the one like getting ready to do something. Like, I've done a scene where I was like a killer in this dark hallway, and then I was standing in the dark hallway. I had the weapon. I was the killer, but I was like, I'm kind of scared right now. Like, like, sometimes that atmosphere can just get you, or it's the opposite end of the spectrum, where you're the one getting killed and the guy jumps out and he's swinging a knife at you and you're like, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
That's right.
We catching the game later, or no?
There you go. Yeah, I got to be a zombie one time on a movie. It was like last year before, whatever, middle of COVID or whatever. I actually got to get killed and all that. You know, I chased the star. You know what I mean? Had a little tussle or whatever, and I got to get killed. You know what I mean? I don't even know if it's ever going to get released, a little small independent thing, but it was a fun thing to do on a Saturday afternoon. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
hang out and do that. You know what I mean? So now, if you ever do a direct thing, man, I got a bucket list. I'm trying to get killed in a scary movie. I want to get like a brutal death. Like I just want to be like, you know. What was that? Was that the wind? And then, yeah, that's all I want. I don't have to be a hero. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Hey, I just want to be like, yo, I got brutalized. Yes.
Hey, I've got the contact information now. I'll keep in touch.
There you go. Yeah, awesome. That's awesome. Now, I do got to say, man, I love going to Virginia, man. Every time I go there, man, even on the little small part where I am on Delaware, you know what I mean, where you know, under Maryland, you know, I hit there, and first thing I do is stop at the store and get fireworks. That's the first thing I do because we can't have that in Delaware. You know what I mean? Like I live out in the country. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? So the neighbors are all way over there. Just whatever. You know. So oh, I love it and stuff, man. Are you a fireworks person or?
Yeah, I really like fireworks. It's one of those things. Fireworks never jump into my brain as like something that would be fun to do, and then as soon as we have them, we have the time of our lives. Like this group of friends back in high school, we would have these bonfires like every weekend. And my friend Putz, that is his actual name, Putz. He always had like the copper wiring that you could throw into the fire to make it change colors. And we would always find like random fireworks and stuff like that. And I remember once we went into this park not too far from my house, and we did Roman candle tag, which was a terrible idea. But it was a lot of fun. It was one of those things, do not recommend you try it at home, but if you end up in the situation, it's a good old time.
Yeah, I did that when I was younger. We did that, Roman candles and stuff. We were firing off at each other. You know what I mean? 5 shots. You know, just like, oh my lord, yes, okay, yeah. See, yeah. You live in a state where you know fireworks. You know, oh, you can go buy them. You know what I mean? Yeah, but you know, I don't. I'm like, oh man, come on, man. I love the fireworks, man.
There's actually a big fireworks stand, like maybe 2 miles from my parents' house, and so
nice.
we would go there a lot. Like the group of friends and I, because like it was literally I think like the halfway point between my house and Putz's. And he's like, if you go at like the intersection of the road right there's a little truck, and it's got a whole fireworks stand. And so sometimes we would just walk, and it would be right there.
Nice. See, my dad introduced me to him because he used to be a truck driver when I was a kid, and I'm telling you, he would give me fireworks at like 6, 7 years old. Like, oh, I was in Tennessee, and here you go, you know what I mean? And then leave me my own device. I'm like, you got matches, you got a lighter, Daddy? I'm like, here you go. I had to go outside. I got all my digits. I'm good. He taught me how to properly do all that stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah. He got me into that. You know what I mean? That's pretty. Now, well, yeah, Remy got all right there. I was going. I only had like one more question and all, but I will ask, man. When you're doing workouts and stuff, man, what is on your playlist, man? What's on there that gets you pumped up, man? You're over there, or say you just want to have a chill, you know? I mean, workout session, man. Where you work on, you know, get pumped up, chilled out, you know?
Yeah.
What you got on there?
So, I have playlists for like any given occasion. My Spotify is like a library full of different playlists. And funny enough, more often than not, even for a really intense, heavy workout, I'll listen to like kind of chill music. I love music of every genre, and I do mean every genre. There is a playlist of sea shanties on my Spotify that I listen to fairly often. But like there are metal playlists that I'll listen to constantly. There's all these other things. But for some reason, I feel like it's easier for me to work out when I'm just listening to some like relaxing or melodic or somber or even sad music. I don't know why that's the direction my brain goes when it's time to work out, but that's just the direction it goes. The band Lydia is one that I listen to a lot. Let's see. This one's not low key. This one's actually pretty hype, depending on what song you play. But I Don't Know How, But They Found Me is the name of a band I listen to a lot when I work out. Cavetown is an artist that I really love, and all of his stuff is super, super chill. Like, listening to his music feels like you're being tucked in at night. And I'll be listening to that while I'm benching however much.
Oh, nice.
I don't know what it is. If it's, as long as it has any, and I mean any kind of rhythm to it, then my brain just kind of wires the workout to go in rhythm with that part of the song. As far as like the hype stuff, it could be pop punk, it could be like A Day to Remember, it could be Asking Alexandria, the old stuff or the new stuff. There could be like really like heavy stuff, like some of the stuff from this band called the Irish Front. They've got some really, really heavy stuff. Really, if a song exists, I've probably worked out to it. I've got a jazz playlist, a freeform jazz playlist that I work out to sometimes. Really, or it could be musical soundtracks. Hamilton, Dear Evan Hansen, Be More Chill, Cabaret, my all-time favorite. Shrek the musical. I have listened to Shrek the musical while being in the Nightmare Factory ring. And I don't know why. I don't know what possesses me to embody the spirit of Lord Farquaad while I'm running the ropes. But you know what? That's where we are today.
Yeah. It's like that sometimes, I'm the same way, I'll just listen to, whatever, Lately I've been watching or listening to a lot of, Southern rock blues stuff like Leonard Skinner, a man from right here in Delaware, George Thorogood, I slip in Tool, Tool, they're like, my third favorite band of all time is Metallica, Alice in Chains, Tool. Tool, man, because you can put them on and they're just, any song, man, they just take you there, man. That, to me, I just listen. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. The Tool, yeah, I love Tool. Oh yeah, it's great. The only music genre I could not get into is country, and I think it's because my grandfather ruined it for me. Because when I was little and I would ride with him, he would listen to these country songs. He'd be like, "There's a tear in my beer, and I'm crying for you," dude. Stuff like that. I'd just be like, God,
We need the full studio recording of your cover.
Yeah,
of
that stuff, and then they put it on, and be like, "Oh man, this is from the 40s and 50s," and I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like, everybody's dog died, and like, like, yeah, and the wife left. I'm like, "Jeez, good, I want to hear some happy stuff, man. Come on." And then they'll put on like, "I gotta buy me a Mercury, cruise up and down the road," and I'm like, "Okay, now we get this one. Okay, all right, yeah." But I think he ruined country for me, though. That's probably why.
Cover of you singing that song, I will put it on a playlist that I work out to.
There you go. Hey, I'm trying to work on a cover album of Michael McDonald and Peter Gabriel. You know what I mean? I'm trying to work on these two cover albums, man, because I love those dudes, man. I'm trying to do it. Plus, my mom, she was a big fan of Genesis. You know what I mean? Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins. You know what I mean?
Love me some, man.
That's right. But yeah, man, I want to say before I pass it on to Remy, I want to say, thank you, for taking time out of your busy schedule coming to chat with us. Man, I had a blast chatting with you about everything, wrestling, music, movies, all that good stuff. And I wish you nothing but the best in wrestling and your acting and all that. I hope you win all the awards and championships going from here forward, man.
Thank you, man. Ooh, that reminds me real quick. I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. A friend of mine, Troy, last night was telling me, hey, when you do this podcast tomorrow, you have to let them know that you were technically the first person from Class 1 to win a championship. And I was like, wait, what? Am I actually? And he said he did the research. So this is I'll make this story quick because we've been talking for a while. I've been talking your guys' ears off. But for this big super show, the super indie show that happened in Georgia a while back, maybe like 2 weeks ago, Hell Freezes Over, the Platinum Championship Wrestling's Dealer's Choice Championship was defended. And the Dealer's Choice Championship is exactly as it sounds. The champion chooses what stipulations in which they defend the title. And given that there were different champions from like 8 different promotions on this card, PCW's Dealer's Choice champion at the time, Duncan Mitchell, decided that he was going to do something to make himself stand out. So he decided to put his title on the line in 24/7 rules for that day. And during those 24/7 rule moments, I managed to pin Duncan Mitchell, and I became the PCW Dealer's Choice Champion, becoming the first champion from Class 1 at the Nightmare Factory. And then I immediately lost it about 30 seconds later. But it can never be taken away from me. So when you ask what's next is Duncan. I'm coming back for my belts. I am coming back for it. And this time, no shenanigans. All right? That teddy bear that you had in collusion with you, you know, it's not going to fly this time. Got my eye on you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's cool. That's a great story. Congrats on that on that accomplishment, man. You know, yeah, Duncan. I think Duncan's from Nightmare Factory too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him. I think, yeah, yeah.
Yep. And
We'll have
that's
to try to get him on here.
Getting the in to go be a part of the set of shenanigans. And then literally like maybe 5 days later, 5 or 6 days after this Hell Freezes Over show, Carly Bravo his first championship. And so I was that close to being the second. But if I'm not mistaken, if my friend is not mistaken, I beat Carly by that much. Just that much.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Honestly, I gotta say, man, like, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. We really and truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on our show. We always enjoy talking to y'all from the Nightmare Factory. Class 3 is next. Gotta see. Actually, we have one. I don't know if you know this other guy, Caleb Kennedy. We're gonna have him on the show later on, next week.
Caleb.
So, yeah, he's definitely gonna be on. We just talked to him recently. The other half of the Rock and Shock connection with KC Rocker. So we'll be having him on. But yeah, I just gotta say once again, man, thank you very much. You know, on behalf of myself, Kathy and Rob, we all wish you the best in your career. We look forward to seeing you on AEW, Dynamite or Dark Elevation or even Dark or Rampage. And then we'll be looking on surprised, like, yo, we just had that guy on the show. Yo, that's crazy, man. Yeah, look at him now, man. You know, so we always like to see people. We always like to see people leave here and go on to do you know, great things and whatnot. Then we can look back and like, wow, they actually got to face one of their dream opponents, so they actually met their goal. It's always a great feeling. But before we shut the show down, where can fans find you on social media if they want to find out when your next appearances? Where can they find you if they want to purchase Luca Wrenne Proctor merchandise? And where can bookers find you when they want to book you for their shows?
All right. So for bookers, the email is just lucawrenneproctor@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Luca Wrenne, WRENNE, as you see on the screen right there. And let's see. And as far as merch is concerned, there is a Pro Wrestling Tees store for Luca Wrenne Proctor. There was a shirt up on there. I took it down because I ended up changing the idea for what I wanted to do with the merch. So currently there's not anything up there, but there will be a big social media blast when that changes.
Awesome, man. I just gotta say, I'm gonna go off the rip a bit, man. You mentioned about mental health, man, and I've had some depressing times too when things haven't gone my way. I just gotta say, Luca, you know, just keep the faith, stay positive, and always remember that, you know, everything happens for a reason. And trust me, I can testify that I've had things like, man, why does this have to happen? And then I just like eventually I saw why it happened, and I'm like, oh snap, I'm better off this way then. So just, you know, just stay positive, man, and just you know, keep the faith, you know, keep believing, and you'll definitely get there, man. Trust me.
Absolutely, man.
And I like the Rock said, man, like Dwayne Johnson said, and y'all just the record, those y'all listening, y'all gonna hear me say this over and over. You know, being persistent gets you there. Being consistent keeps you there. So once you have that, you know, it's all gonna be good. But y'all heard the man. He actually has merchandise available You know, if you can't make the shows, this is another way you support indie wrestling, is copping the merchandise, you know, getting it while they have it available and whatnot. You know, it's important that, you know, we as fans support indie wrestling, because that's where, you know, 95, 99% of your AEW and WWE superstars come from. It's the indies, you know, so support them. Why not support them while they're there now? So when you see them on a big screen, like, yo, I got their shirt from way back when, you know, so definitely support it, man. You know, yeah. So with that being said, it's about time for us to actually go ahead and shut down the show. My eyes are getting kind of heavy, so that means it's time for a bit of a nap. But before I get to sleeping, Kathy, where can fans find you on social media if they want to talk wrestling, and all that good stuff?
So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and Discord, all at DLUE70517.
Cool, awesome. Rob Bass, where can fans find you on social media if they want to talk wrestling, and where can bookers and promoters find you when they want to book you for their shows?
All right, you can find me at Rob_Bass82 at Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, and then Rob Bass at Facebook and YouTube.
Awesome. And if you want to find me on social media, not that I have anything cool to say, you can find me on Twitter under @TheRemy Blue. You can also find me on Facebook under Remy Blue. It's a picture of me at WrestleMania 28. So if you see that, that's me. But our podcast is also on social media. Yes, we're on Instagram and Twitter under @Ringside Society. We are also on Twitch under Ringside Society 2019. And we have a Facebook group. Yes, Facebook groups are cool again. Were they ever not? But we have one. Type in Ringside Society and you will find us. We are also on YouTube. Yes, that's exactly one of the platforms that this episode is actually being streamed. So go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube. Just type in Ringside Society, nothing fancy. Once you see that blue, that sweet blue yin and yang logo there above Kathy's head with the blue fins around it, that's us. Go ahead and subscribe. Do not personalize it. Put it for all, because we got a lot of cool, you know, videos coming, not just interviews, you know, clips from shows that we've been to, you know, maybe even interviews that Rob or Kathy may have done. You know, you never know what you'll see. So just subscribe to all. And we're also on Teespring. Yes, we have a Teespring store where we sell Ringside Society merch. It's hoodie season. So guess what? We got the hoodies for you. So go ahead and cop a hoodie, cop a long sleeve shirt. You know, it's also pumpkin spice latte season. So we got the coffee mugs for you to sip your lattes, your green tea lattes, your hot chocolate marshmallows. We got it. So definitely go ahead and check us out, cop some merch. All proceeds from those sales go back into keeping this show afloat. It does not go back into our pockets. Trust me. I'm still eating hamburger helper. Rob is eating Kool-Aid sandwiches. And Kathy was eating something weird the other day. I don't know what it was. But yeah. But anyways, with that being said, we just want to thank everybody that tuned in tonight live. We really and truly appreciate it. We know we're not the best, but we try to be one of the best. Thank you very much. We really and truly appreciate it. You know, it definitely means a lot to us. We do this all for y'all, not just for ourselves. And to those y'all that are going to listen to us later on via our various platforms, thank you very much in advance. And those of you that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we go away, well, like myself at a Golden Corral, Rob Bates at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania, and Kathy at a Vignette store, we're not going anywhere for a while.
They hate us because they ain't us.
We ain't stopping. So with that being said, we just want everybody to know that we understand that everybody and their grandparents and their parents have a podcast. But we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. Hey, yo, Rob Bass, Kathy Knight, one time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, and one time for the first person from Nightmare Factory Class 1 to win a championship, the Vibe Curator, Luca Wrenne Proctor. What type of podcast are we?
All right, 3, 2, 1. We're Wrestling Fans Podcast.
That's right, we're the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society. And with that being said, we will be back tomorrow night with another impressive guest. Actually, it's a 50 minutes of fandom guest. But until then, we're still going through a pandemic, so it's not completely over. So stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. We out. Peace.
See y'all. Good night. Stay classy, Delaware.
Bye.